here we are in chapter 6, grids, guides, and aligning objects, and I wanted to go over Project B with you. Project A is pretty easy, and I can cover the same material in this one. Project B CD cover, so I want to, and it's a little complicated, so I'm going to go over it pretty thoroughly so that we cover the most important things in the chapter. And I've been trying to, this is my first attempt to try and abridge the chapters because they are pretty hefty and I've been losing people, and including myself, just trying to keep up with these chapters. Like I said earlier, I think the textbook was designed for a 6-credit course and not a 3-credit course. So anyway, we've been taking about 2 weeks to complete one chapter, which is actually about right. But for now, in order to get to the end of, to cover all the material we need to cover, I'm going to start just picking out a couple projects, or anyway, half of the project homework that we've been doing, and just assign that per week. So Project B is one of them. And then I wanted to skip Project C and go to Project D. And then skip Project E because I think it's just too much information. Okay, I mean, if you ever want to create something like this, you can always go back and work on those projects on your own time. But for the semester, I think we can skip it. So, starting with Project B, it's designing a CD cover. And one thing they introduced is document presets. So I'm going to show you what that is. If I open up InDesign, you go File, New. Okay, now we've already been working with document presets, but you might not have known that that's what it was. In the place where it says page size, and we've been selecting letter many of the times if we don't have another size to input. There's options like letter and legal and tabloid, letter half, legal half, A5, A4, I think these are envelope sizes, business card, and then there's compact CD. Now these are all called presets because they're preset sizes. They're standard sizes, like a business card has a standard size. I think it's like 2.5, what is it? 2 by 3.5? I can't remember. See, if I put it in, it'll show me. Oh, okay, 3.5 by 2 inches. So yeah, that's all I have to do. And then compact CD has a very specific size, so it fits in the CD rack. And so that's all you have to do is select compact disc, and it puts in the exact measurements. Now, here's the trick that we're learning. Here's one thing that we're learning new in this chapter. They're talking about the options for bleed and slug. And if you don't see it, then maybe you have the fewer options in your new document dialog box. So if you select more options, then you'll get the bleed and slug. And you really don't need to pay attention to slug. That has to do with when you want to have notes that are actually printed out in the document and will be trimmed off later. Like for example, little signatures for team manager, and like for a huge company, a production company, they can't print anything off without like 5 signatures. Then they need the slug area, but we don't need that. I've never had to use the slug area. And but bleed, absolutely. Anything that goes to print and has what is a full color from edge to edge, you must have a bleed. If you don't, then basically the printer will have to crop off parts of the edges of your image to get the color to go from edge to edge. And you don't want that. You want to have nice margins the way you design them. So the standard bleed is 1/8 of an inch. And I'm trying to remember exactly what number that is. Hold on one second. Okay, it says it in the student handout. In the instructions, it says add a 0.125 inch bleed. So that's 1/8 of an inch. And you want to add it on all sides. So what I'm going to do is type period 1, what is it? 1 125. Okay. 25 inches, and then hit tab, and it should fill in all of them, top, bottom, inside, outside, because I have make all settings the same, the little chain link checked, selected, whatever. And the reason for that is because, yes, if you look at the CD here, let me zoom in a little bit, the color, the yellow background goes from edge to edge. And what happens is if you don't add a bleed on all four sides, when the printer goes to cut it down, you might get a little bit of the white paper where the color didn't go all the way. Or the printer's never going to be able to cut it perfectly. So, especially if you're having mass amounts of business cards or whatever CD covers produced, they can't line up perfectly. So you need a little bit of wiggle room to cut off, where the yellow extends beyond the trim area. And so if the printer's not, or if the cutter's not exact, it's not the end of the world. You're not going to have a white line on some of the edges of your cover or business card. So anyway, bleed, very important. And it only has to be 1/8 of an inch on every side. But that's one of the things that a printer will ask you when you go to have something printed, if there's a bleed, or they'll check. And if there isn't a bleed, then they'll say, oh, you don't have a bleed. And so now you'll know what they're talking about. All right, and there was one more thing. We just need to add a margin. And it was a 0.25 margin. So I'm going to drop this down a little bit. 0.25 inches, and then hit OK. Okay, and this is what it should look like now. So here we have the edge. The black line represents the actual document, and then, as you know, the inner purpley pink line is the margin indicator. And now we have this third line on the outside, the red one, and that represents the bleed. I guess it's red for blood. It's just where the ink will bleed off the page, and so that there's a little wiggle room for when the printer has to cut it down to size, and that the ink will go beyond the cut marks. So the trim marks are the document edge, the black line. That's where it will be trimmed. And then any object you put should go beyond the trim marks. Any image that's going to be bleeding, blood, should go all the way to the bleed line. So I'm going to demonstrate what that looks like in just a sec. So first we're going to need to place an object. So File, Place, or Control or Command D, and then make sure I'm in the right place. Artworks, Chapter 6, Artwork and Resources, CD cover. So there's only one image provided for that, and I'm going to open it. Place it. Whoa, that's interesting. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna redo that. Let's see. Come on, there we go. Okay. And now, instead of putting it to the black line, it needs to go all the way from bleed to bleed. And still doesn't look quite right. Not sure why. Just to double check, because it looks like the margins are off to me, I'm gonna just go to viewing mode, I think, and display performance, and go to high quality display, because that will give me a more accurate idea of where the image is. And let's see, I'm just moving it so that the image aligns with the margins. For some reason, I don't know if yours is like that. It's just a little off. I don't know why. Anyway, okay, and then make sure that the bleeds are filled edge to edge with the yellow, so that your printer will not complain about not having enough bleed. Okay, so there it is, my placed image, bleed to bleed. And added the title and subtitle for the CD cover. And now I want to get to the part that we haven't addressed yet in our lessons, and that's creating this decorative shape design at the bottom, this little graphic element. And that, in doing so, we'll learn quite a few new tools. So let's go ahead and get started. Create the circle, square, and triangle, and a circle, square, triangle. Okay, they're alternating different colors. So first we'll create a circle, square, and triangle, the first one, and then shift those. I think this one, nope, they don't repeat at all. All right, so we'll just have to change the colors after the fact, which is pretty easy to do. So to create a circle and square is pretty easy. We went over those. But if you want it to be a specific size, like in this case, they won't, Terry Ryberg specified that each item will be 0.25 inches in width and height. So that being said, if I have my rectangular frame tool selected, and then or my shape tool, doesn't really matter. Shape tool, click, whoops, click, okay, there it goes. If you just click, and I have to be specific with my Wacom pen, exactly how I click, but then you can enter 0.25 inches, tab it down to 5 inches, so it's a perfect square. Hit OK. And now I have a little square, which I will then make pink, I think was the color. Fill with pink, or magenta, actually. Magenta's the proper word. So there is my pink square. You know what, I'm actually going to create this off to the side, so it's not in the way. Whoops, I need a little bit more space down here. Okay, put it down here. And then for the triangle, I don't know if we went over this, but you use the polygon tool to create a triangle. And if you click again, if I can get it to click, there we go. All right. The polygon width is also going to be, the dimensions is going to be 2.5 inches by 2.5 as well, or 0.25, so a quarter of an inch. All right, but then the number of sides is where you can specify whether this is going to be a triangle, a pentagon, an octagon, whatever, star. You use the polygon tool to make all of the other shapes. So obviously for a triangle, I'm going to need 3 sides. And then the star inset, because it's not a star, I'm going to have that 0. Hit OK. And then change the color to, what was that color? Green. Okay, green. And actually there was supposed to be, it looks like a circle. No. Whoops. The square was supposed to be red, and the circle was supposed to be red square, and the circle is supposed to be pink. So let me go back to my lips. And again, I want to specify the same size so that they all have the same dimensions. Even though they're different shapes, they will all be 0.25 inches in width and height. Okay. All right, and then that was the pink one. Okay, now that I've shown you guys how to make these shapes, I'm going to go ahead and just make all the other ones and pause the video to save time. Actually, I just realized I wanted to show you guys how to save time by copying them. So let me just select the 3 shapes that I made, and we'll need, let's see, we'll need them to be repeated 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So there's that step and repeat option under edit menu, step and repeat. So in a column, let's see, if I step and repeat, I can repeat it 4 times as a grid. Remember to check grid. And then you can also offset them like so. And there we go. That's a lot faster than making them again. And then now I'll pause the video and adjust the colors so they match. It looks like I'm missing a shape. There's circle, triangle. Okay, no, that's just different colors. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust the colors to match. And then I'll unpause it. Okay, so now it looks like it's about the same pattern, although it doesn't really matter. If you want to just go ahead and, what's it called? Not change all the colors. What you can also do, there's another way to copy them. You just take the three and then you hold Alt or Option, depending on if you have Mac or PC. So I have a Mac, so I'm going to use Option and then just hold that down while I drag, and then hold it down again and drag, and hold it down again and drag. And now I have the same amount of, I've just made copies. That's how you duplicate objects really quickly without using the edit step and repeat. That's more specific for repeating a specific step. But if you just randomly want to click and make a copy of something, it's really nice to hold the Alt or Option button. Now what I'm going to do is select all of them, and they need to be aligned to, let's see, I think it's from margin to margin, yeah. Okay, so what I need is to move one triangle over so it's aligned to the margin. This one's already on the margin. Okay, and then select all. Now what happens is I accidentally selected the background image and also my text frame for the Snap Giggle Ring-a-Ding title. And in the case, like, there's a couple ways of dealing with this. You can shift and then click on the items that you want to unselect. Whoops. There we go. So now it looks like I've just got my, actually no, I still have my text frame. Okay. So if I shift and click on the text frame, okay, I'm having trouble with this. Okay, so what I'm going to do to make things easier is just lock these objects so that I can't accidentally select them while I'm doing this. So Object Lock, or Control or Command L, and then I'm going to lock my text frame too. Object Lock. Okay, now if I drag my marquee, I'm just going to get only the shapes and not the other two objects. Now if you want to unlock the objects, you can always go Object Unlock. Unlock all. You can't unlock one at a time, you can unlock all. Unless there's a shortcut that I don't know about. But anyway, now it's easier to work with this little graphic that I'm creating and leave the other stuff alone. So it's really convenient to just lock an item temporarily. Then let's see what else. Okay, so I want to align them so they all have the same center. Line vertical centers, okay, and then I also want to distribute them evenly. So I go down to distribute horizontal centers, and now they are exactly the way I want them to be. And let me just double check my example to make sure it looks about right. Well, they look like they're lower, so I'm going to move them a little lower. Just drag my marquee across, and then once I have them positioned in the way that I want, it's a good idea to group them so I don't have to keep selecting them all. So if you go Object Group or Control or Command G, now they have become one and I can move them. I just have to select one item for them to all move together. Whoops. Keep them aligned. That being said, you can ungroup them just as easily if you select them and you go Object Ungroup. So just remember that those options, because they have to do with objects, they're under the Object menu. So the ones we went over were Group, Arrange. Did I say Arrange? I don't remember. Maybe we didn't get there yet. Let's see, what did we go over? Locking and grouping them. Those are options. And the next part is to create this little thread going through all of them, so they kind of have like this, look like they're beads or something. And basically it's a rule, a wavy rule that's been cut in parts to make it look like it's going in and out of the objects. So first we have to draw the rule. So grab your line tool and then click and drag. I'm going to check for the specs. Looks like it's a black stroke. And let's see, I'm not sure about the thickness. Let's see, maybe 2 is it? Let me double check. Okay, so I need to open my stroke panel. It might be over here. Oh, yes, it is. But if it's not, you can always go up to Window and go to, where's strokes? Okay, there it is. Okay, I just couldn't find it. I didn't see it. Okay, stroke panel, and then we're gonna make it 9 points. It's kind of thick. But anyway, that's what it says. Oops. Make sure your stroke is selected when you make adjustments over here. Okay, 9. No, that can't be right. That's so thick. Maybe when I change it to a wavy line, it will get thinner. Oh, yes. Okay. So depending on what type of stroke, the thickness may look different. So, anyway, okay, so put it on wavy first and then change it to the 9 weight. And the miter limit, I wonder what that does. I'm not quite sure. I don't know. It's not an obvious one for me, and I didn't read about that. So, okay, ignore the miter limit. I think the default was 4. Let me go back. 4, leave it alone. And then one thing that we are going to show is that there's different types of caps. So for your stroke, if we go to the edge, you can examine it here really close. The stroke edge, make my window bigger too. Whoops. Kind of funny like that. There we go. It's got like a square edge to it because it's on the cap is called a butt cap. Now we could do a round cap. And there you go. It rounds out the edge of the stroke. And then this is a projecting cap. Interesting. Butt cap and projecting cap. Okay, interesting. All right, so we want the round one. And I guess depending on what shape the stroke is going on, you might want different caps. And then there's also different types of joins, but it's not going to affect. In this case, it doesn't really affect anything because this is not a closed shape. But anyway, there's those different options available. And then next, what we're going to do is we have to cut the stroke in order to grab the scissors, which I haven't really used that often, and cut it to make it look like it's going in and out of the shapes. So we're going to need to cut it at the second shape it looks like. Okay, cut it here. Let me see. I want to get both of these windows open at the same time so that I can see what I'm doing. Okay, cut it here, it looks like. Let's see. Make sure my stroke is selected. Grab my scissors and cut. I think I managed to cut my rule into little bits, and I can sort of tell it. I don't know if this is exactly how Terry Ryberg wanted it, but I can see that now my rule is cut into little separate objects. Exactly where they wanted us to make the cuts. Let's see. Let me go back, take a look. Yes. Basically make a cut over every square and shape, whatever. Square, triangle, and circle. And so now every other one they want us to send to the back. So I'm going to leave this one and then grab the next one and then go Object, Arrange, Send Back. Or I can use the shortcut, which is Command Shift and then left bracket. So let me grab the next one. Oops, and then go Command Shift L bracket. Next one, Command Shift L bracket. Command Shift L bracket. Command Shift L bracket or left bracket. And then now what I gotta do is unlock that background layer. So Object, Unlock All, and then send the yellow background all the way to the back. Hold on, that does not look right. What did I do wrong? Okay. If I send the yellow all the way to the back, Oh, I think I had the other object still selected. So make sure you unselect everything, then just grab the yellow background and then send it to the back. That should look right. Okay, when in doubt, just try it again and make sure everything's unselected by clicking away onto a blank area of the workspace. Just in case, because I think what happened was I still had the objects I sent to the back were still selected. So when I sent them to the back again, anyway, I don't know if that makes sense. All right, but yes, I'm pretty much done with that exercise.